Sammuramat was an extraordinary ancient Assyrian leader whose legacy was left in history by the myth of Semiramis, a semi-divine being. The first records of Sammuramat appear in about the 9th century BC. In ancient Assyria, prior to the time she ruled, King Salmanasar III was in power, who was the father of Shamshi-Adad V, Sammuramat's husband. His reign made the empire very stable with vast resources and plenty of troops to keep the empire in order. However, a catastrophe struck when Salmanasar's other son, Ashur-din-pal, got jealous of not being able to have the throne yet, so he launched a rebellion against his father, the present king. This threw the empire into a civil war that lasted 6 whole years. Although the rebellion was crushed, the empire was left in a weak and vulnerable state. Shamshi-Adad V was now in current power from 1823 to 1811, where rebellions were common to this very unstable government. When he died, this is where the history and reign of the infamous Sammuramat begins. When Sammuramat comes into power, the empire is thrown into a prosperous state of stability. She reigned from 1811 to 1806 BC, a short time until her son Adad-nirari III was old enough to come into power. It is known that she initiated a number of building projects across the empire, along with personally leading military campaigns to expand their territory. This was highly rare of an emperor, and especially rare of an empress. She successfully defeated the territory of Medes and annexed it as a part of the rapidly growing Assyrian Empire. Sammuramat was also successful at beating the Armenians on multiple occasions. One major building project she is known for is the embankments at the city of Babylon, which were a beautiful touch to the already gorgeous city. It is amazing how a woman came into such power in an ancient time such as this. It was unheard of that a woman would hold position in government or any high role in society, let alone being the leader of one of the strongest ancient empires. One historian by the name of Gwendolyn Lick gives explanation to this phenomena by stating, "This woman, Sammuramat, achieved remarkable fame and power in her lifetime and beyond. According to contemporary records, she had considerable influence at the Assyrian court." Well, due to this quote, we can make sense to why Sammuramat was able to take control so easily of the empire. Also, along with the sheer fact that she was a woman could give reason to why the empire so quickly became stable. Her legacy was inscribed in an obelisk at the city of Ashur that stated, "Stele of Sammuramat, Queen of Shamshi-Adad V, King of the Universe, King of Assyria, Mother of Adad-nirari, King of the Universe, King of Assyria, Daughter-in-law of Salmanasar King, King of all the 4 regions of the world." The fact that they would call her Queen of Shamshi and Daughter-in-law of Salmanasar is astounding. A woman never would have been called by such a respected name. Sammuramat was a leader not to be forgotten. On the flip side, Sammuramat was also seen as a semi-divine being by the Greeks, which then gives way to the mystery behind who she really was. The Greeks called her Semiramis, which is Greek for the word doves. Ancient historian Diodorus Siculus is credited with the story of the creation of Semiramis. It was said at the city of Ascalon in Syria, Aphrodite was angered at the fish goddess Deserto. Aphrodite cast a terrible curse on the lesser goddess, which caused her to fall in love with a Syrian, which bore her a daughter. Filled with shame of what happened, she killed the child and left it in the desert alone, fleeing into the water, where it is said she became a fish. A flock of doves then came to nurse the baby back to life by feeding it milk and cheese they found from nearby villages. She was found by a farmer and named Semiramis for the sheer fact that she was found in a flock of doves. She grew to be a beautiful woman who caught the eye of a Syrian government official, whom she married. She then grew close to the king Nanas and overtook control of the empire from him. Semiramis acquired much of her power through military conquests and building projects. It is said that she founded the city of Babylon herself, making it the beautiful capital of the powerful empire that she held. The historian stated that her conquests were similar to that of Alexander the Great, a previous ruler of the ancient world. She also had a string of one-night stands with handsome soldiers on her conquest. Semiramis would then have them killed the next day to assert the fact that she was a powerful leader that could not be taken down. She defeated the Indian army at the Indus Valley and defeated and killed the sun in form of the god Ur, establishing that her ruthless behavior is like any other Assyrian ruler. By the end of her reign, she ruled all of Anatolia, Mesopotamia, and Central Asia. Semiramis finally died at age 62, giving the empire to her son, Nerurus, ruling the empire for a mere 42 years. It is said when she died, she turned into a dove and flew into heavens, like her birth. As seen between a description of Sammuramat's rule and the myth of Semiramis, many parallels can be drawn. However, many historians find it hard to draw connections between the two due to lack of information we have of the actual ruling of Sammuramat. Most of what we know is a mystery, besides the fact that she was an amazing leader. People have even debated whether or not Sammuramat even ruled the empire, or even if she actually existed at all. Numerous sources, however, state her existence and ruling. It is said that Sammuramat's reign may have been so impressive that legends grew greater and greater until actual events were forgotten. This would glue the myth of Semiramis and Sammuramat together because it would make sense that the supernatural Semiramis would have greater events than the human counterpart. This would also explain why there is so little history to the actual reign of Sammuramat. However, again, historians still don't see this as reliable evidence for the link between the two. A book by a Christian minister, which is called The Two Babylons, causes more trouble. It links the great Sammuramat to the hooker of Babylon, which doesn't seem to make sense due to prior history attained about this legendary leader. Historians have chosen to take sides on this debate, but most say that the myths of Semiramis, a semi-divine being, were probably inspired by the life of Queen Samurat of Assyria. Sammuramat's legacy still lives on in the present world today. In 1897, Rossini's premiere opera was named Semiramis. Semiramis Hotel was built in 1897 on the banks of the Nile River. It still remains a luxurious hotel today near the Museum of Egyptology in Cairo, Egypt. However, the biggest legacy of this esteemed queen is in the USA, the monumental Statue of Liberty. It is just a mere copy of Sammuramat as seen in this picture. On the left is a coin used commonly in Babylonia, and on the right is the Statue of Liberty. The crown represents worship of the sun, as her husband was known for, Nimrod. The torch, which is supposed to represent freedom and liberty, is really just the torch of the illuminated ones, or the ruling elite. If you look at the base of the statue, it is just a mere copy of the Babylonian ziggurat. The statue also has 25 windows in the crown, which is the same day that Semiramis' child was born. The sculptor of this statue, Augustine Barothy, wanted to build a statue of Isis, which is just a modern name for Semiramis. The ideas are incorporated into the Statue of Liberty that we see today. It can also be seen as history repeating itself. Babylonia was a wealthy and prosperous city of the ancient world, full of commerce. New York City is just a modern example of that, and the Queen of Babylonia still stands over it. It's amazing how just 5 years of ruling an empire can change the course of history forever. Sammuramat was such a remarkable leader that she was incorporated into a godlike figure in the form of Semiramis. She was able to stabilize the Assyrian Empire after it was put on its knees by civil war. She is still even seen today in the New York Harbor or even in Paris. Whether you believe in this mystery or not, Sammuramat was a leader whose legacy still affects our lives every day.